All right, that's a lot better. Hey, check, check. Check, check. All right. Sorry, so I think I got my audio issues figured out. Alrighty. Now, I think, sorry about all the issues there. I think I got the audio issues figured out. I believe it's a lot better now. So, um, okay, here. Should be a lot better. Just asking somebody to check. And then we'll get going here. It's got a couple items to go over. Just thought about it last minute here. And instead of just creating a video, decided just to share it with you guys right now. So, just get one other thing ready. All right, great. Looks like my audio is a lot better. Don't know what happened there. I just closed out the program that I use. We'll get going here in a minute. Alrighty. So most of the items that I wanted to, or the main item I wanted to talk about today, and it kind of goes along with the video that I posted, or a link to a video I posted for earlier today, was just planting our garden. Right now, I think it's very, very important and critical to start planting our garden. There's a lot of different things we can do with planting our garden. Right here, starting our stuff from seeds, getting all of our seeds organized, and just getting the stuff figured out what we want to do. You know, drawing out a map where you want things to go. Those are a lot of things to do with our garden. There's a couple areas, a couple plants that we want to, if we want to grow them, start when we're planning out our garden. It's a good time to start getting those seeds seeded, or understanding the certain life cycles or how long it takes for some of our plants. An example of one of those plants that do take quite a while are parsnips. If you do want to grow parsnips in your garden, which I highly recommend people to grow parsnips, we put these in our soups a lot. But these parsnips do take quite a while to grow. And those are one of the things you want to try to get in your ground as soon as possible. You know, parsnips can grow pretty good. I think I ended up pulling them out of the ground probably about, they were about this tall. That's probably about 20 inches. It was a pretty big parsnip. It was probably about that big. But I let that one grow all year. Those are one of the plants that we do plant all year long. I let it grow. Another one is our celery root. So celery root, as you know in a couple other videos that I've done, I've explained that celery root and celery root does take quite a while to grow and to germinate. So this all comes back to our planning. You might say, Matt, why do you keep talking about these seeds or these stuff with me? Keep going over the same exact thing. Excuse me. It all comes down to planning our garden. And planning our garden starts, at least for me, starts right at the end of the growing season. So right around October, November, and you know, still right now, I start planning out my garden. How do I want things to go? Where do I want things to be? You know, we gotta remember crop rotation. We gotta make sure we put our plants in a different spot. That goes back to a topic that I've talked about with pest control. Just as simple as crop rotation will help the pest in your garden. So, you know, I think planting is very important in a lot of different areas. Make sure we have a good yield. Make sure we're not you know, crowding our plants together, making sure we help with our pest control, a lot of things with planning out a garden. So a couple things I wanted to do today was just explain to you about certain items, certain vegetables that take quite a while. So if you do want to plant those, start thinking in your mind, when do I need to get those in the ground? Like I said, parsnips, celery root, those are two that take a very long time. And if you want to grow those vegetables, let's start planning it, thinking in our mind, where do we want to put it? When should we put it in the ground? So, and then just going through our planting stages too, making sure we have the seeds that we need. If you're somebody like me that likes to start a lot of my plants from seeds, okay, do I have all of my seeds? Yeah, I got a lot of seeds here. But, you know, I plant a lot of things throughout the year. So what I try to do is, during my planting stages, I try to start sorting out my seeds in my container so I know where, you know, what do I have. Seeds do, at least in my area, seeds do run out fairly quick at the stores. So we want to make sure we have the seeds that we need. So making sure we have our seeds, getting them in an order. So I want to do something with you guys that I've never done before. I kind of want to, I posted a video, a YouTube video from last year that I did about planning. I want to play that, and I kind of want to talk through the things as we're playing it. So let me switch over to that, and we'll see how it goes. Got any questions while any of this? Go ahead and shoot me a message. I am streaming this over on YouTube and Facebook, so either one, just shoot me a message. I will take a look at it. So let's take a look at what I'm talking about here. So I'm going to switch over to my video, and I kind of have a picture-in-picture, so I'll be watching it with you guys. Alrighty.
Everyone, this is the episode.
No audio. Let's bring this up. Maybe we're not doing this. Audio's not my friend to this this evening.
Hey everyone, this is the episode
we got
you do
audio.
not want to miss. Planning your garden for this year. Yes, I love this time.
So yeah, pretty excited about my garden planning.
Let's put it right there. Put that right there. Yeah, that looks good.
Hey everybody.
So I'm going to pause that. That's actually a tool that I use. They don't sponsor me at all. I don't care if you guys use this tool or not. But it's a really, really awesome tool. It's from a company called GrowVeg. GrowVeg.com. They're based out of the UK. And that tool does cost money. I think it's like $30 for 2 years. But what I love about that tool is that it is to scale. It will remember where you've planted other things before, so you'll keep your crop rotation. What's awesome about that tool as well is I can actually click the question mark, and it will tell me more information about that plant. Can it handle frost? How big is it going to get? What are its companions? So what can it get along with? What does it not get along with? So reason why I say that is with planting your garden, all of those items are very critical, very, very, I think very, very critical, very important to understand when you're planting your garden. Hey, can my plant handle a light frost? Can it handle a pretty decent freeze? Right now, in spring and at the end of the year, those are extremely critical. So understanding, can your plants handle a frost or not? That tool will help you. A lot of I've actually seen a lot of the back of the seeds actually don't say that, but there's a lot of really good websites out there that you can look and see if they can handle a frost or not. There's one that I actually like. It's I don't really know if it does other areas. But I know it has something for Wisconsin where I'm at. Actually, I think you can filter other zones. I will find a link of it and I'll put it down in the comments here. Probably at the end of this, but you can go there and it can give you a lot more information. So let me continue the video some more. Let's check it out.
Buddy, I was trying to think of another topic to talk to you guys about. My wife said, well, you start doing your seeds right now, starting to get your garden all planned out. Why don't you just talk to people, give them tips on how to start the garden. You know, right now we should start thinking about what we want to grow, how do we want to lay it out. So she's like, why don't you just talk to people on what you do? So that's what we're going to do in this episode. So why is it important to know what you want to grow? Because you need to know what type of spacing your garden needs. So I learned that the hard way last year. I planted tomatillos, and I thought they were going to take the spacing of, like, say, 2 tomato plants. So they ended up taking the spacing of, I'd say probably about 4 tomato plants per tomatillo plant. I did 2 of them. They took up a fairly good amount of the area that they were going to go in. So,
So that is a pretty important thing to think about. So when I said spacing, we kind of really got into a bind doing that. That was actually 2 years ago when I did those tomatillos. Now this video is from last year, but spacing again is very important, and I have a really hard time getting over that spacing thing. So when you think about spacing, so let me find something up in here. Really good one I'm actually thinking of is some type of cabbage. So let's see, a red cabbage. It says here spacing needs to be 1 foot. That's for red cabbage. I think some green cabbages need to be a little bit wider. Here we go. Here's a good example. So cauliflower. It says spacing 16 inches apart. That's not 16 inches from the base. That's 16 inches from the middle of the inside leaf, or from the most outside leaf. I mean, that's huge. And in my mind, that takes up a lot of real estate. So even though I do say spacing is extremely important, I don't want to sound like a hypocrite at all, but sometimes I still do put certain plants closer together. And the reason why I do that is because let me give you an example of a plant that I do plant close together is kohlrabi. So as kohlrabi comes up, what I do is I start cutting the leaves. So the reason why I cut the leaves is because I do plant them a little bit closer. I also plant the leaves because I want all of the energy to be put towards the kohlrabi, not the leaves. So spacing is very important, but also if you know you can cut the leaves away, because I don't eat those leaves at all, I plant them a little bit closer. What you can do too inside, so for instance, tomatoes. I actually line the outsides of my tomatoes with my onions or my garlic, and that can kind of use up some of that real estate. So let's go back to the video and we'll look at a little bit more about it.
once you know the spacing, then you can plan your garden out. But again, before you do that, you got to know what do you want to grow. And then you can figure out how much spacing they need. Then you can figure out where you're going to put them in your garden. There are a lot of materials out there that will help you determine on how much spacing you need.
So yeah,
One of the
spacing right
best
here, like I was
things-
talking about. The back
For
of
instance,
the
on these
back of these packages.
Brussels sprouts, it says depth, well, how deep, it says spacing 3 to 2 feet. Really listen to that, because they're not kidding. Now, sometimes I'll just say forget it. I'm going to put 2 of them close together. They'll grow. They're going to grow into each other. They're going to block the sun. They're going to take the nutrients from it. They're just not going to grow as well as they should. So this year I'm actually going to listen and do that.
And I lie. I didn't really totally 100% listen. You know, when he gets out there, you think, yeah, I got plenty of space. They still grew into each other. So let's just continue.
So it's very important. Like I said, I've done it a lot. I've overcrowded them. They just do not give me the results that I want. So next, let's talk about seeds. So where can I get them? You can buy them anywhere. Home Depot, Lowe's, directly from the manufacturer. I bought these microgreens directly from Burpee. They came pretty quick. Burpee has sales all the time too, so I got all my Burpee seeds with free shipping, so they were the same amount I can get them at the store. You really don't find this mix of microgreens at the stores. You know, you can get your seeds. You know, these are organic basil. Again, make sure when you get it, it says this non-GMO on it. Let me focus at it. Sorry, non-GMO, extremely important.
Now, I personally think non-GMO is important. People might have their own opinions. My opinion, if I can't find organic seeds, I'll make sure I get them for non-GMO. That was just my personal opinion on this.
Don't plant seeds unless they're non-GMO. Lastly, I also got these heirloom. So what are heirloom? Heirloom are the original cultivated seeds from the earliest that they can say that that the plant was formed, or when they can get it. So,
One note. So what I showed you right there was a heirloom dinosaur kale. If you're gonna grow that stuff grows gigantic, huge, tall, wide. I just saw it. If you want to grow dinosaur kale, it's good stuff, but it does grow very big, and I actually think it grows a lot bigger and wider than what the package says.
heirloom, probably the best ones you can get. Heirloom, going to be very expensive. I mean, if you don't have to worry about costs, get heirloom. Also, can get organic, non-GMO. But where can you buy the seeds? Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, directly from the manufacturer. So in this case, Burpee. So yeah, seeds. So on the back of every seed package, they're also going to say how long it take to germinate. So meaning how long are they going to be before you plant them, before they start coming out. So for instance, basil is 5 to 10 days. Then it says plant height. Obviously, how tall is it going to be? Plant depth. How deep do you need to put the plant? So these, 1/4 of an inch. So sorry, 1/4 of an inch, so quarter. Yeah. So what I do is I just lay them flat, put them on, and sprinkle a light layer of dirt on top of it.
So that understanding how deep you need to plant your plants is also very important with your planning. And why do I say that? So if you want to plant your plants in say a container, fine, great. I think a lot of plants grow great in containers. We got to make sure that the container's tall enough to handle that. Also, if you're going to plant it in the ground, if you're going to plant it directly in the ground, some of those want a hole that's roughly 6 to 8 inches. Then we want to make sure we understand what type of material is in the ground. That is actually one reason why I recommend using raised garden beds. I think there's a lot of benefits with that. I'm not going to go over the benefits in this one, but I think there's a lot of benefits with a raised garden bed. And I say the number one benefit is that you are going to be planting in dirt that is full of great compost, minerals, everything that the plant needs. And you're going to be planting into rocks in that. So let's watch this continue.
You can click right here to view a video I did on planting lettuce. Same concept.
I'll put the
light
link
layer
in
of
there.
dirt, sprinkling the seeds down, and another very light layer of dirt on top of it. Again, click right here to view that video.
Yeah, I'll put the link
Days to
down.
harvest, 85 days. And then it says plant spacing. So this one, get in there, it says 10 inches. So you're going to plant your plants 10 inches apart. So that gets back to the spacing. They say it. I'm going to do it this year. Let's just try to make sure we keep our spacing correctly. Also on the back of these, they're going to give you some instructions when to start them. So a lot of them say start inside 6 weeks before transplanting in the garden. What I've noticed on these is they don't tell you if they're frost hardy, meaning that can they handle a light frost. So if you're going to plant them in spring You know, our last frost here in Wisconsin is typically the end of May. So if you plant something outside and it's not plant or frost hardy, you're going to kill the plant. So also when planting out your garden, you're going to want to make sure you have stuff that can handle shade.
So going back, earlier I talked about frost. Again, frost, extremely important when you're planting out your garden. When can you plant your plant outside? When or how long can your plant last outside? So, you know, a couple things. Tomatoes right here. Tomatoes cannot handle frost. They will die immediately. Well, not immediately, but they'll die. And you can always tell when the season, the growing season's coming to an end because they're going to start dying back because of a frost. You know, some cabbages can handle frost. So understanding, can it handle frost or not? That all comes down to planning.
Obviously be in the shade, and stuff that needs full sun in the full sun. So you might want to try to take note on where the sun shines the most.
And then yeah, want to talk about right there with shade. So so a perfect example on this. So radishes or spinach. Let's talk about spinach. So if you're somebody that likes to grow spinach like me, spinach bolts. Bolting sucks. Two types of bolting. Bolting when it's cold, bolting when it's hot. So spinach, what I typically do with spinach, and it comes down to planting, where do I want to plant my spinach? Well, I plant my spinach underneath my kohlrabi. Because when I talked about those leaves come up, so those leaves are going to give protection of that direct sunlight on that spinach. And this spinach, when I do it that way, grows like gangbusters. It explodes because we have that shading of our plant, of our at least in this with our kohlrabi. You could probably plant it underneath broccoli or probably under cauliflower, things that are a little high off the ground. You can plant some of your cabbages underneath there. Or sorry, not your cabbages, your spinach. Another couple of things is your radishes. Radishes don't like heat. They'll bolt. So you want, if you're thinking about, hey, when do I want to plant my radishes? All comes down to planning. This is all this we're going to be talking about today is planning. So where and when can I plant my radishes? Radishes are roughly 30-ish days from the time you put the seed in the ground to the time you can pull it out. So you don't really want to typically plant radishes from, at least where I'm at in southern Wisconsin. All regions are different, but it comes down to the heat. So for me, I don't really plant radishes in probably July to August because it's just way too hot. Even if I had something to go over them, they were still bolting. So shading or sun, that's very important when you're planting your garden.
In your yard, read the packages. Normally the packages will say if it needs full sun or partial shade. Anything that says full sun is typically 6+ hours. After you figured out what needs shade and what doesn't need shade, you can plan on where you want to put those in your garden. You're also going to want to make sure you have a good water source by your garden. Typically people put gardens by their house, so you should have a water spigot right outside, but note, you need to have some type of good water source by your garden. Lastly, after you figure out what seeds you're going to plant, spacing, what needs shade, what doesn't need shade, and your water source, you're going to need to actually build the garden. I personally use a raised garden. A lot of people put right in the ground. There's really no big difference. I like the raised garden because it kind of makes it look better. It does help keep pests out of it because you can kind of put a barrier up a little bit more on that. Just make sure you.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about pest control in this too. So I talked about crop rotation with pest control. I highly recommend, again, a raised garden, and I highly recommend a raised garden with some type of fence on top. Don't use that plastic fence. They're going to eat right through it. So typically what I do is you guys have probably seen some of my videos. I go to Home Depot. I get their 70% off 2x4s. I throw my 2x4s, stack them up, and then I build an awesome little rectangled fence with some chicken wire on it. It's probably about 20-ish inches from the ground up. Nothing gets in the garden. So that is a benefit of a raised garden, because then you can put that fencing around. Plus you have a barrier so things can't get in.
Think about what type of garden structure you want. Like I said, in the ground or a raised garden. You can also use pots. I personally don't use them because they tend to need a lot more care. You need to add a lot more fertilizer, a lot more water to them. Just because they're in a pot, they're not getting the nutrients and from the soil and the water and the bugs and everything from the rest of the garden.
So I did end up growing potatoes in a pot last year. I ended up growing red potatoes, and I chose red potatoes because they were, they're nice and small, and I'm pretty sure we had a pretty good success with the red potatoes. So I don't typically grow a lot in pots, and because of the reasons why I said there, I would say they are a lot harder to water because it's another watering thing that you have to do. I mean, most of my garden, right? Don't get me wrong, I'm very spoiled. My whole garden is automated, so I have automated sprinklers that turn on, and my pots are outside of my garden bed, so I have to go and hand water them. It's a pain in the butt when I go on vacation. My neighbor Mike does a really good job. Thanks, Mike, if you're watching this. But sometimes we miss a little bit, and that's okay. And I just use my automated watering system.
There are other options too. Some people use hay barrels. I've never used them, so I can't comment on that. People also use plastic bins as well. I, again, have never used those, but I have heard that they give you the same results with containers, that you got to add more nutrients to it. So I think the best thing is just put it right in the ground. You're also going to want to note on how tall the plants are that you're planting. They might block the smaller plants. So for instance, if you want to plant corn, put those off by themselves, or put it so when the sun comes, the sun are hitting them first and then hitting the other crops. So just make sure you know the tall stuff, put kind of maybe by itself, or start with the tall stuff and go down to the small stuff.
So what you can use here is for instance, this.
So sorry, I had to step away. I had something in my contact here. So this is a really good tool. It's from Burpee. At least in my zone right here, I was able to find this, and it kind of showed me the zones and all that. So I'm not going to go into more in the video. It just talks about this Burpee tool, and it talks about that other planning tool that I used. Let me just double check
Vegetable
here.
garden.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess we could show a
to
little bit. It's
scale,
kind of nice here.
as well
Like
as
the planning
fruit
tool
trees that we have.
does
We were
have
going to add some
the
raspberries
size
in
and all
here.
that,
I decided
so
not to do that this year, but you could tell.
let's just see. I don't think there was anything else.
Also, please.
So yeah. So that was my video on planning. If you do want to watch it again, I actually highly recommend you to watch it every year, maybe a couple times a year, or just whatever. Share it with your friends. I'll have a link down below in the comments, or just go over to my YouTube page, YouTube Matt the Garden Guy, and just search for planning your garden. It's always a good refresher. I have some other really awesome videos over there. I have a couple really favorite ones: pest control and compost. Actually, soil too. Understanding all of those areas within your garden. I think it all again comes down to planning. Our soil. We have to probably in about a month here, I'm going to be testing my soil. For my nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, making sure I have the right amount of nutrients in my garden. And then my compost. Every year I pull the fresh dirt from that is made throughout the previous year. I throw it in my garden. Compost is amazing. I would wish or hope everybody that gardens has a compost. Compost has a lot of great benefits to it. So So yeah, just looking at a couple other comments here. So let me look here. So I had a comment over on YouTube here. Somebody was talking about their yield with green peppers, cucumbers, and pumpkins had poor yield. Um, I would say that a lot of that actually. All right. Technology does not like me today. Let's get back on it. Sorry, everybody. Technology is just really hates me today. It's kind of funny as I'm actually work in IT, and I do not know what it's doing today. But anyway, couple comments on here talks about those cucumbers and pumpkins, uh, green peppers, poor yield. I would probably say that has to deal with water and or the um, nutrients in there. So having that compost and a really good fertilizer, I believe, would do really good for those. Um, those plants too need a really good amount of sun. So make sure they have ample amount of sun throughout the day to make sure that they can handle, or so that they get the right amount of sun. So I've seen it where sun is a major factor um, within plants. So let's see here. Yeah, I think that's about it. So yeah, I just wanted to touch base with you guys today. Trying to do these live videos every week or so. So if anybody has any questions throughout the week, please shoot me a message. I'm on multiple different platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. All you got to search for is Matt the Garden Guy, and um, you'll be able to find me there. Shoot me messages. Um, I on all those on at least on Facebook and Instagram. Again, Matt the Garden Guy. I do show a lot of different techniques and just what I'm doing throughout the day. I do a lot of those on my stories that they have on Instagram and Facebook. So yeah. Um, Again, if anybody's got any questions for future items or just need help with anything, please go ahead and shoot me a message. Um, I greatly appreciate helping anybody. Um, so today, what we talked about, planning our garden. Like I talked about, planning our garden is extremely important. I'm probably going to continue to do more topics on planting our garden. Probably going to continue to say it over and over again. I think a lot of issues that people have would be because of proper planning, spacing, um, or not having the seeds, not having enough water. Make sure we have a good water source to our garden. Make sure we have compost, some type of organic matter, and just really understanding what we're dealing with. Get a bunch of videos out there. Video on compost, video on basics of soil, just so you understand what really is in your soil. What do I need to do to help my soil? If it's got a deficiency on certain items, pretty cool techniques in there too. So if you want to go check that out, it's the basics of soil. Again, I can put the comments down. I'll put the link to it. But again, go to YouTube, just search basics of soil. It was a pretty fun video I created last year, and I actually learned a couple things as well. Wood ash. What do you do with your wood ash? I'll talk about that in my video. That was one of my favorite things that I talked about. So again, yeah. If anybody's got any questions, future, shoot me a message. Hey, and until next time, keep growing. And that's right. I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you.